In some strange but true crime stories, even when the mysteries are solved, the endings are still too unexpected and unbelievable for seasoned investigators and true crime fans alike to handle. Number 5. In 2000, Jocelyn Somerville's grandmother reported her missing to local police in their small town of Mansfield, New Jersey. Police detectives showed up and found the 15-year-old sitting on the curb near the elderly woman's home. Case closed. But that next month, the grandmother, a woman named Janine Baptiste, called again to report that Jocelyn was missing and had run away. This time, the unsolved case remained open for more than 9 strange years before the mystery was solved in an unbelievable way. Janine Baptiste, like Jocelyn, was a Haitian immigrant. Unlike Jocelyn, Janine had come to America with much of her family, including a brother-in-law in Connecticut and other relatives in Florida and Kentucky. By 2009, through a series of strange investigatory breakthroughs, the urgency of the case had been upgraded to human trafficking, and special agents in the FBI tracked Jocelyn down. As it turns out, the real crime in this story was committed by Janine Baptiste. Not only was she not the real grandmother of Jocelyn, but she had also made a false missing person case about the disappearance of Jocelyn to cover up a true crime mystery. For 9 years, Jocelyn had been used as free labor by family in Kentucky and had endured criminal conditions. For years, she was passed around from home to home and not allowed to speak with any outsiders. This unbelievable, strange but true story is far from uncommon. Jocelyn was called a Restivek, a name in Haiti for the 300,000 or so children who have been given over to wealthier families by their parents, or else taken from orphanages. The children work in exchange for food, shelter, and the promise of school, but they often get taken advantage of, and their untold stories can end in horror, but not for Jocelyn. When FBI special investigators found Jocelyn, she had changed her name to Jocelyn Somerville. She had managed to get under the care of the Catholic Charities chapter in Kentucky, which planned to help her apply for United States citizenship. It seems as though her story has an unexpected ending she never thought possible: freedom from a lifetime of endless labor. Number 4. Sarah May Estes and her husband Mitchell fled their home in Winchester, Kentucky in the dark of night. In September of 1987, the two left their 5-year-old daughter and possessions behind and struck out on their own to live a life outside of the law. Mitchell was a suspected murderer, and sources are unclear on whether Sarah went with him of her own accord or was forced to flee at his side. Sometime in late 1987 or early 1988, the criminal couple were reportedly spotted by family members in Brooklyn, New York, boarding a Greyhound bus to an unknown destination. The couple's case went cold until March of 2019. Just when it looked like the case would have no ending, an unexpected phone call changed everything. Sarah was in a Mississippi hospital, going through the darkest moments, and wanted to see her sister Linda. After they got off the phone, hospital staff sent Linda a picture, and she was sure that the mystery woman in bed was in fact her long-lost sister. She drove all night to Mississippi to pick Sarah up and bring her back to the family in Kentucky that she hadn't seen in more than 30 years. When Sarah and Linda reunited, she told her a true story of real-life crime. Because Mitchell had been wanted, the fugitive pair had been living under fake identities for decades. Mitchell passed away in 2015, and in 2019, Sarah had major health problems of her own. She had avoided inpatient care for as long as possible because she knew she could not enter the hospital under her false name. However, she finally gave her real name and set off the chain of events that strangely would bring her home. Their time together was short as she'd already reached stage 4 cancer, but they spent their final moments as a family. As for the crime Mitchell was implicated in, police continued to work on new leads. Around the time Sarah was found, investigators did report that new information had recently become available, and they continue to work the unsolved case. Number 3. Eva Marie Fielder went missing in 1984 at the age of 6 from her home in Somerville, New Jersey. The criminal suspect was her non-custodial mother, Nancy, but the girl's location was an unsolved mystery, and for decades, Eva's father searched. Greg was granted temporary custody of his daughter after Nancy had attempted to deny him visitation rights, and after the decision was made, Nancy fled to her sister's house in California. Greg brought the case to a judge and was granted full legal custody by the courts. But when he flew to California to pick up his daughter, she was a missing person. Someone had tipped Nancy off, and she and Eva had once again vanished. After that, Greg wouldn't see or hear from his daughter or missing wife for decades. He spent more than $150,000 searching for Eva over the years. But sometime in the 2000s, he began to think this unsolved case would never be solved. Decades later, Eva resurfaced in a most unusual and unexpected ending to this truly bizarre mystery. She wanted to get married, and to do that, she had to legally change her name. Eva, who reportedly didn't know she was a missing person, had lived for nearly 30 years in Incline Village, Nevada, under the name of Melissa Reed. Her mother was going by Debbie and also living in the same town. When Eva showed up at the name change office, a routine records check turned up her previous identity as Eva Marie Fielder, a little girl from New Jersey who went missing. Police were quickly dispatched and brought Nancy into custody, where she admitted to her previously untold story of deception. Eva, for her part, was shocked and confused by the true events of her life. Although she spoke to her father on the phone, she didn't answer to the name Eva, preferring to go by Melissa. Nancy was held in custody for 18 days, and in 2011, she was sentenced to time served with no additional punishment. Nancy and her daughter, who has since legally changed her name to Melissa, reportedly still share a close relationship. Her daughter's missing person case has been resolved, but tragically, in the words of New Jersey prosecutors, there's simply no way to reach amends with Greg Fielder for the emotional trauma he endured for decades, waiting for this unsolved mystery to be solved. Number 2. In the true story of Amy Billig, the then 17-year-old was hitchhiking along the highway in her hometown of Coconut Grove, Florida, on March 5, 1974. She was heading to her father's office building to ask for some money to meet her friends. She never reached the office, and the investigation behind her case would later result in a strange but true crime story of its own. Shortly after Amy went missing, her mother Susan received an unusual tip that a motorcycle gang called the Outlaws might have taken Amy captive. Susan vowed to see the case solved herself and met with notorious individuals from the gang across the state of Florida. In one case, a biker told her he had owned Amy at one time, and even identified her based on photos, as well as a hidden scar found on her body. In other stories, Susan traveled with various strange gang members to other parts of the country, including Tulsa, Oklahoma, Seattle, Washington, and Reno, Nevada, following up on tips that suggested a quiet or mute girl from Florida had been seen with a biker gang. In 1992, Susan even traveled to England on a tip from a British crime investigator. Tragically, her hard work turned up no actual evidence of Amy's abduction. Susan continued to be haunted by her daughter's absence and by the most mysterious phone calls of her life. For more than 20 years, a man called Susan regularly from a number of different payphones, claiming her daughter was being held captive by human traffickers. The crime tips were vague, frightening, and would come to an unbelievable and unexpected ending in the mid-1990s. The caller made his big mistake in 1995 by dialing from a cell phone while the FBI was tracing Susan's calls. Special FBI agents were led to Henry Johnson Blair, who worked for the U.S. Customs Department. In a shocking twist, Henry claimed that he didn't even know Amy. He told the FBI that his problems with addiction and OCD compelled him to constantly make frightening phone calls as part of a bizarre routine. He was sentenced to a 2-year prison term and ordered to pay $5 million in restitution to Susan. The case went cold in December of 1997, when Susan's last remaining connection with the biker informant ended with his passing. She continued her search until she too passed away in 2005, 30 years after Amy vanished. Speaking to reporters, her son Josh remarked that he didn't think she ever found peace in her journey for justice. Anyone with information about Amy's unsolved case, which is still active, can contact the Miami Police Department at 305-579-6530. Number 1. The strange but true life of Nicholas Francisco has two different stories. In one, he was the perfect husband and father of 2 children, and a regular church attendee with a prestigious job at an ad agency. In the other, Nicholas was a deviant with secret bank accounts and online personas of various perversions. Both are true. When he vanished without a trace, he imploded his family and would ultimately become one of Washington State's weirdest true crime stories, filled with unbelievable moments and an especially unexpected ending. In 1999, Nicholas met Christine Carter when they were both students at art school. Roughly a decade later, they were married with 2 kids and a third on the way. On February 13, 2008, Nicholas kissed his wife goodbye and left for work as an ad executive at Publicis. He even called Christine around 6 p.m. and told her he would be home soon to bake Valentine's Day cookies with the kids. When he wasn't home by 10 p.m. that night, she made a worried phone call to 911. A missing persons case was opened by police detectives the next morning. With no criminal record and a spotless reputation, no one had any idea what might have happened to Nicholas. While friends and family set out to organize a search and Christine gave media interviews, Publicis shut down Nicholas's department and sent employees out into the streets with flyers. Still, with no leads, police eventually brought Christine in for a standard line of criminal questioning, asking her questions about life insurance, fraud, and the donations she had received to support her search. Combing through Nicholas's desk is where the crime investigators found their first clue: a receipt for contraceptives. Christine told investigators that the pair didn't use them and suggested the receipt might not be from Nicholas. But when she found a second discovery, that quickly changed her mind: evidence on her husband's computer of a secret bank account that told her some unusual stories of his past. Nicholas had paid memberships for adult matchmaking sites, where he'd often go by the name Funtime Steve. While Christine was home alone and pregnant, records showed that he was out almost every week committing unsavory acts with almost anyone. For more than a year, Christine thought he had met a horribly unexpected ending, that he could have been kidnapped, attacked, or worse. Up until this latest discovery, police were treating this as a possible unsolved crime case with foul play. She had been questioned by police over whether the events of his mysterious disappearance on that night were a true story when he was actually living just a few states over in California. He left her at random on the day before Valentine's Day. After records of Nicholas's infidelity came out, Christine decided to file for divorce while he was still missing. This marked Nicholas in the system as an absent father who owed child support. And when he opened a bank account in Los Angeles, it was flagged. Nicholas quickly realized his mistake. He closed the account and disappeared again. But crime investigators tracked him down to his new home, where he was living under an assumed name and didn't want to have any contact with his family or anyone from his old life. Because he's an adult of sound mind and chose to disappear, crime investigators had no choice but to drop the case. Nicholas will not be prosecuted. Meanwhile, Christine is left with 3 children and his student loans, which she signed as a co-borrower. She sold their house and was living in a basement apartment when she last spoke with reporters. For his part, when a reporter found him in 2009, Nicholas did not want to see photos of his children and told the interviewer a strange but true reply: "I just want to be left alone." It was far from an apology and a completely unexpected ending to an unbelievably bizarre mystery of family deception that was finally solved. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked this video, be sure to hit that like button. Also, don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell to keep up to date with all of our future uploads. But my name is Ty Knotts, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.